If you say that you are a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and you adhere to Message to the Black Man, Fall of America, Our Savior Have Arrived, then you cannot be without this book, because this book explains and verifies all of that.
Back Harriet Tubman up, I would have been one of the conductors on the underground. And when you got away from the plantation, if you looked like you wanted to go back to the white man, they said Harriet would pull a pistol out on you. I would have had 2 pistols. I would have pulled both of them and cut them on you, man, all day, Bubba. You ain't going back to the white man. You either gonna be free or we gonna free you right here, big Bubba. You ain't going back to
Thank you so much. I'm here at Everlasting Life Studios here in Capitol Heights, Maryland, a African-owned business. And some of my lifetime friends, we talk about them in the book of Khallid. We talk about Prince Asiel Ben Israel. We talk about Ben Ami. We talk about the African Hebrew Israelites, as they were known at that time. All right, so just a few moments. I want to, because many of you want to know more about the book or ask questions.
All right, peace and black power. Welcome to another edition, family, of BABATV, Every Time Fire, House of Consciousness. And it's my blessed privilege to be here with my big brother, Dr. and attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz, as well as to be here at eLife Studios, Everlasting Life at eLife Studios here in Capitol Heights, Maryland. And the first question that I have for our attorney is, attorney, why is it so much opposition coming from some of our family about this book coming out of one of the greatest black men who have ever walked under the planet, have walked the planet, and was kicked to the curb, not given his proper respect? And because you are coming out with a book giving this brother his just due and his respect, why does there seem to be, from certain members of our community, such a problem with that, sir?
Okay, what I would like, that's a good question, but I would like you to lay a foundation for the question by telling the audience what opposition you say exists. Why don't you cite the opposition?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And certain members of the Nation of Islam, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, and others.
What did they do?
Okay. All right. Okay. It seemed like they, came out speaking against you coming out with this book, basically. And I watched you defend the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, ignore it, keep on pushing until you just couldn't take it anymore. What is the problem with what is in the book that is so, the book hasn't even come out yet. We don't even know what's in the book. Only you know what's in the book right now. What is the problem with this book coming out?
What was the problem with Khalid Muhammad when he was on the scene?
Yes, sir.
If you'll answer that question, you'll answer the question about the book. The book is a reflection of the life of the man.
Yes, sir.
When the man was here, he was controversial, he was hated, and there was a lot going on then. Okay, and now that his book is coming back to life, like any other prophet or great person, he is going to be lionized and exalted through this book. His words, his life is going to be exalted, and there will unfortunately be opposition, but it's not new opposition. See, I'm not dissuaded by opposition, because I lived through the time when he was here and it was opposition. So I expect the opposition. The Holy Quran says opposition is necessary. It points out the principle that opposition is necessary to attain the truth. Now, there is, so before we get into that, we can address all of that, but I don't want to digress, because I want to explain this to the brothers and sisters can get a real idea, because on one hand, this has been misrepresented by some Uncle Toms. What I'm doing has been misrepresented by some Toms. And in order to clarify what's going on here, I'm going to get up in this. Phil Donahue interview in Holy War, Black Holocaust. Okay, all right. So, I guess I have to answer your question, but I'm gonna answer your question in this way. There is not a black person on the planet, or a person that says that they are a revolutionary, or a person that's a thinking person, that will not find light, truth, wisdom from the book of Khallid, which is his truth, his teaching, and also the extensive documentation and the study proving and explaining the details of what he was teaching, okay? As well as gaining life from the life, the trials, the tribulations of Dr. Khalid Muhammad. It is much wisdom. So I want to start this off by saying that every black person, every Muslim should have this book. Even if at some point you don't agree with my conclusions, you can't do without this. If you say that you are a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and you adhere to Message to the Black Man, Fall of America, Our Savior Have Arrived, then you cannot be without this book, because this book explains and verifies all of that. Now, this man here was stated by his teacher, Minister Louis Farrakhan, to be the best defender of the lessons of the Nation of Islam. For those who are not familiar, the lessons of the Nation of Islam is the holy word of God brought by a holy man, Master Fard Muhammad. And it is the core doctrine of all that the nation believes and goes by, the lessons. Now, this is the man that was stated by his teacher to be the best defender of the lessons in the wilderness of North America. That is Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Muhammad is an expert on this, and Muhammad teaching must be re-examined. Now, what I'm giving you here is some of his, this is a tripart book. It is his speeches, many of which you have never seen or heard before. I have not released them. I'll release them when the book come out. You have not seen what I have. I have the vault, by God's grace. I have the study guide, meaning that if I have 60 footnotes in say this speech here, you've never seen Khalid Muhammad's speech on South Africa, delivered at the Final Call Administration Building in 1985. It is not on YouTube. It is not being sold. None of you have seen it, and I have refused to produce it. But now I have the transcripts. And what happens when I give you this historic speech here, and I don't give it to you as a speech, I give it to you as the word of God from my teacher. And I say that some of the opposition is because he will be, like he said to me, Brother Malik, they're disagreeing with us now. But one day people will watch our videos and our tapes and they will agree we are correct. The fear is that people will see Mr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad as being correct. And when you read this, he is more than correct. This is a revolutionary divine doctrine for the next 100 or so years right here. This is a barometer by which you got to measure your teaching by. This is a criterion that you got to measure yourself by as a teacher or as a man. Now, you've never seen this speech that I'm going to release, South Africa, and the transcripts of it, and the scriptures that go from our brother. And so what I do is, it is very interesting to read. You won't be able to take your eyes off of it. He's talking about Ronald Reagan. He's talking about P.W. Botha and South Africa at that time, 85. However, it's the notes. It is the study guide. I don't just have an average page of citations. Here's 60 notes, 2 pages, that's it. Oh no. My notes and my citations is my chance. If he mentions, for example, Sister Ava Muhammad, who introduced him at the Final Call building. If he mentions her, then that gives me a chance to do what? I get to go in and teach on Ava Muhammad. He mentioned Louis Farrakhan over and over again. I'm going into his Minister Louis Farrakhan. Minister Louis Farrakhan is written about a lot in here, and in much of this book is revered in exalted terms. Many of people, this will give you an expanded and historical knowledge and depth on Minister Louis Farrakhan that many of you, some of you just got here yesterday, do not know. You have to know who your leaders are, who your people are. You have to know their history. History is best qualified to reward our research. So I'm intense. I went off, as they say, on my citations. I go off into it. I go off. If he mentions Iran, I go off into the history of Ayatollah Khomeini and so forth. I take every chance on a teaching to go into a teaching that relates to the teaching, because this man is universal. He's talking religion, science, revolution, politics, culture, Africa, history. He's talking it all. So Khalid Muhammad gives me a chance to back him up by explaining all of the things that he was teaching, and therefore you're getting a comprehensive book. A comprehensive book. A comprehensive book. He talks about you say the original man is the Asiatic black man. He's the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the God of the universe. Can you prove it? And damn it, we have to prove it here. And we have to prove it. Well, who is Margaret Mead? Who is the researcher Margaret Mead? What is Zinjanthropus? What is the skeletal remains of Zinjanthropus? I cover it all here in parts of the opening up here, the book of Khallid on South Africa and what he's talking about. I also am able to, in the citations, not just cover South Africa, talking to Chris Sankar, talking to my brothers in the Pan-African Congress of Azani, who I love very much. It gives me a chance not only to talk about South Africa yesterday, but I get to also relate it in my study guides that come after each book or chapter. I get to relate the struggle to today. You see, I get to relate yesterday and today. It's not just a book for yesterday. If I talk about how Dr. Khalid Muhammad in this speech on South Africa is quoted in Public Enemy's Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, he's quoted on the speech Night of the Living Baseheads. Then that gives me a chance to talk about Public Enemy, talk about the rap wave at that time, but I also get to talk about how Khalid Muhammad loved revolutionary rap. And if he were here today, I get to talk about this man who I'm giving you, Kendrick Lamar or Nas. See what I'm saying? I get to drop current things and relate it to Muhammad's subject of the past, so that the young people, the 16-year-old, the 15-year-old, can immediately identify with their current hero and relate it to this man that they are now watching and will be watching everywhere. So I go on here. Now we starting to, y'all bear with me, because I'm, as Malcolm X say, I'm talking fast and I'm moving fast, as Malcolm would say, paraphrase him. And God. So I go here, the opening chapter, Father's Day for the Black Man. South Africa, you got the speeches and the citations, but also you got the third part. In this is the biographical part of what was happening at the time. Well, he was the supreme captain of the Nation of Islam at that time. Well, how did he become the supreme captain of the Nation of Islam at that time, over all of the FOI and the paramilitary forces? How did that happen? Who was his teacher? Who is Edward 2X? Who is Edward Sherrill or Captain Ali Rashid, the former West Regional Captain for the Nation of Islam? Who gave Khalid Muhammad that kind of swag and that kind of bite and that kind of hard line, tough teaching? Who was his influence? Do you know who Edward 2X is?
No, sir.
Okay, well, you get to find out what makes this man up. What makes him up? What makes him up? What happened to him? What happened in his childhood? Is it true that some things that have been said about him in terms of his childhood are true? Or is it false? We want to know what makes up this man. So after every chapter, then there's a section on his biographical parts of that time. Going to the next, more biographical parts at that time. You'll learn a lot about figures in the Nation of Islam and things that happened in the Nation of Islam that ain't nobody written about and nobody who cares would write about. The history of this era, the late 70s, the 80s, 90s, written in this era, in this book. I just had a big long interview with the Honorable Silas Muhammad on many of these subjects, and I'm transposing it into parts of it into the book right now about the fall of the Nation of Islam, the second resurrection. Who is Malik Rushdin? Who is Harold X? Who is Malik Rushdin? How did he become Khallid? Did he follow Wallace or Imam Warithuddin Muhammad? How did he get back with Farrakhan? How did Farrakhan get back going? Oh, history is most qualified to reward our research. So we come on here, the third book here, The God Within. This is not the officially how it's going to look. This is some of my drafts. It's not my final, it's a draft. I'm in the war room right now. This is 550 pages, just leading up to 1994. 550 pages, maybe 600, up to 1994, and then volume 2 will be released on April 19th, the 25th anniversary of the Black Holocaust program at Howard University, volume 2, which takes us up to 2001. That's what I can give you. And if you get volume 1 on December 15th, it'll last you some years. You'll never escape this knowledge. Okay, so here's book 3, The God Within. The God Within. Oh, I transcribed, not only did I scripturalize it and see his words as divine, because y'all got to learn how to respect your own as divine. So just like you quoting chapters and ayats in the Quran, I have no problem with that. Please do that. But I also want you to understand that in the book of Khallid, in the 3rd chapter and in the 6th verse, Khalid Muhammad says that prayer is focus. In the book of the God within, spiritual people. Prayer is focus. Prayer is meditation. Prayer is not only focus and meditation, but it is spiritual and divine concentration. You know, and I get to quote him on that in the 3rd chapter in the 6th verse, and then I get to open up in my study guide on the subject of metaphysics and how God manifests in man and how you can commune with your divine soul. So what I'm trying to tell you is it's not just a political book, it's not just a historical book. I'm telling you, this man at his best represented God on a high level. And if you listen to him and really study in him, he will bring out the God in you. He can bring about, and his word can bring about, spiritual reconciliation and satisfaction. So I dig into Muhammad's teaching. I prove, as his representative and attorney, advocate, that his words are correct. So that's the God Within. Bear with me because I'm going fast. I'm taking you down the line fast. So I come here to book 4 now. FOI class. You never saw this because I got the tape and it's never been released. And those that have the tape will not release it, but I got the tape. And it's been under seal for 24 years. The FOI class. The former Supreme Captain of the Nation of Islam, Khalid Abdul Muhammad, teaches FOI class. Have you ever heard Muhammad teach a FOI class? You have not heard him teach. Till you hear him teach a FOI class, brother, because I was there and I was absolutely riveted by him teaching over 200 or 300 men of the FOI. And you're talking about Khalid Muhammad at his Nation of Islam peak now. So we get to learn, all of America, everybody around the world, they get to learn about this thing called the mighty FOI. You FOI who are under Louis Farrakhan, FOI under Honorable Silas Muhammad, FOI at whatever era. Who's giving you your explanation, your props, your breakdown out here, explaining who you are, other than the enemy who had degraded the FOI? So we get into Muhammad's great and an illuminating speech on the FOI. And so we go over the structure of the Nation of Islam, people that y'all may have forgotten about. You forgot about Abdul Akil Muhammad, brother who used to be Rodney Muhammad, the captain over Muhammad's Mosque number 6, one of the great pioneers of the dope busters. Somebody recognizes him up in here. Somebody in here at this FOI class at Muhammad's Mosque number 4 in 1993, somebody recognizing that it was a group here from Muhammad's Mosque number 4 called the Dope Busters, who were under Captain Abdul Sharif at that time, or William at that time, and his assistant captain, Brother Timothy, at that time, who went out and shook this community and cleaned up crime and drugs in the black community. Well, I detail it and give them their credit and their props in here. Muhammad teaches you up in here about this class and speech and words you've never heard before about what it takes to be a supreme and elite soldier for God, what it means when you have your proper propaganda organ called the Muhammad Speaks, or the FOI, the Final Call newspaper. This is a chapter, a soldier for soldiers chapter, and explains and breaks down the FOI, and it is a training manual for every captain in the Nation of Islam. This one chapter alone, you remember that book by Louis Farrakhan called The Meaning of FOI? It was a pamphlet. I haven't seen nothing since that pamphlet. Well, now, just take this chapter alone. You don't like my book? Take the FOI chapter out on the FOI and reprint it and give it to every FOI in the wilderness of North America, because I guarantee it'll make them stronger, colder, and bolder when they hear that the sword of Allah, one of the greatest supreme captains ever for the Nation of Islam, he drops it. He drops it. He teaches you on proper propaganda. He teaches you on the wardrobe. He teaches you everything you need to know to be an elite, top quality soldier. But not only that, not only do I cover the speech, but then here I go going off on another 60-page study guide about everything he says. Everything he says, I'm breaking down everything he says. Well, he says that Elijah Muhammad, here in his opening speech, he says he's the resurrected and exalted Christ. Well, that's a heavy claim. Let's get into it and see where that claim comes from, what it about, what it means to. What does FOI mean? What is the FOI national structure? When did the Fruit of Islam fight the Detroit police in 1934, when the early Muslims was going and the early FOI had to fight the police with their bare hands? I got it for you in the book of Khallid. It ain't hidden somewhere. It's coming out. It goes on and on and on and on, and I'm gonna keep going, goddamn, on and on, pardon my language, on and on, man, till I get up off of this. That's February 1993, the night before. I'm coming, Brother Baruch, give me a minute. Here. Then he gets to an epic moment, and we get to a turning point. This is 1993. This first volume in 1994, 550 pages. If you can finish reading it by the time I finish volume 2, I'll give you something out of my vest pocket, because I don't believe you can do it. On Malcolm X, I spent 100 pages on Malcolm alone. On his speech on Malcolm X, this particular unique and unprecedented and unseen speech on Malcolm X that I was blessed to produce at the Howard University Blackburn Ballroom in February 1993, when the nation was on the defensive because Spike Lee, backed by the white Jews, was on the attack. Here, and some man went to bat. Some man put down the nationalists and the Pan-Africanists and the other critics who were on the back of the Nation of Islam. It was Muhammad who came here and put that down in this city, and he put it down, and he defended Elijah and the nation around the country. He defended Farrakhan. And this is when Khalid Muhammad was at his Nation of Islam peak. And as I tell you in the biographical parts, as I saw him at that time, and I will not back down on that, I saw him as 100% the absolute successor to Minister Louis Farrakhan at that time. He was that sharp, that spiritual, that clean, and that mean on the scene. February 1993, February the 16th. 1993. So I say that I ain't gonna spend long on it, but if you want to know about Malcolm, and you don't just want to hear from if you never heard a balanced, a non-anti-Elijah perspective on Malcolm, from one who loved Malcolm and loved Elijah, then you got to have this. And the young people need to study this. And so here, this one chapter alone is a book in and of itself, and it could be put up there with all of the great books on Malcolm X, because not only do I have his teaching, and I broke down everything that Muhammad is saying on Malcolm and explaining Malcolm, from this modern Malcolm. Not only do I break it down and all of that, oh, J. Edgar Hoover, I don't miss a chance for a footnote. Damn it. Now, then what? It's another, damn it, another 100 footnotes just on Malcolm, and not just average footnotes. I take every note, and every note is a subject. Every time he's speaking on something is a subject. What about Gaddafi then? What about Gaddafi today? Who killed Gaddafi? Was that Obama? Ooh, there it is. So, he was heavy in this speech. I mean, he was heavy because he went into the CIA, and so I go all into the CIA and Harper's Magazine, Maulana Karenga. I take it to the max, man. Thank you for y'all patience. So here it is now. Now y'all buckle y'all seatbelts. So we come to a turning point. Muhammad is now not just speaking on Malcolm X, but he is moving into the position of a modern Malcolm X, because he is about to enter some controversy and get suspended from his position like Malcolm X. We get to the end of '93, November 11th. Dr. Khalid Muhammad comes to Howard University for a speech called No Love for the Other Side. But Dr. Khalid Muhammad, as is documented in this speech, is facing some challenges. Muhammad still is a firebrand radical, a firebrand militant, anti-white racist radical. And the Nation of Islam is moving in another direction in terms of its political stance. There's like a kind of a split here. Thus, in this speech, No Love for the Other Side, Khalid Muhammad offers a strong, a blazing defense of Louis Farrakhan meeting with what he calls the so-called Jews. He offers a blistering defense of Louis Farrakhan, scathing his critics, saying that it is okay to meet with the enemy or to meet with the devil. He goes to the scripture and points it all out. He gives a most brilliant defense of Louis Farrakhan meeting with the Jews and things at that time. On November 29th, 1993, however, he delivers a similar speech, a great speech really, at King College. And this speech ignites around the country, ignites a flame around the country. And so this book answers the question. BABATV, thank you so much, because I know you really love Doc, and I know you got a lot of respect for me. Thank you so much. Am I on, Akbar?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so again, at the height of his career with the Nation of Islam, he's speaking everywhere, all around the country. He's in great standing. By the end of that year, things change, and he is at odds with his organization. And we have to go into the reasons why he's at odds with his organization. But he's really not at odds on November 11th. He's throwing down for Minister Louis Farrakhan. He's giving Minister Louis Farrakhan a blistering defense for those that saying that Louis Farrakhan changed direction. In June of 1993, Minister Louis Farrakhan had some musical performances and had other overtures of meetings with Caucasian Jews, and there was an accusation that Louis Farrakhan had changed direction. And Khalid Muhammad went to bat with Louis Farrakhan, Minister Louis Farrakhan, his teacher, to beat down all his critics on the theory of divine strategy. and the divine negotiation that it was written and rooted in the scripture and so forth. He did it and laid it out brilliantly. Right at Howard University, he burned up all of Minister Louis Farrakhan's enemies. However, on November 29th, he delivered a now historic speech that was denounced by the House of Representatives and everybody. Everybody. Ben Chavis denounced him, NAACP denounced him, Congressional Black Caucus, Anti-Defamation League. I have it all here. I got the Anti-Defamation League. I got the Anti-Defamation League reports and everything. His speech ignited the nation. It blew. It was a speech of great controversy. They were attacking not only his speech, they were attacking the nation. They were attacking Louis Farrakhan for his speech, and ultimately Muhammad was suspended. He was busted in February of 1994, early February, and he was suspended from his position, suspended from the ministry of the Nation of Islam. And this was a great controversy that I'm documenting. I have verbatim not only just his speech from The Secret Relationship, that's in the book, but the whole breakdown of the evidence that what he was saying was correct. I found that what he was saying was correct. So this is a huge controversy now. You got the Nation of Islam on the front cover of Time magazine. This is in the book because the Khalid Muhammad controversy sparked everything. Nation of Islam appeared here on the front cover of Time magazine, February 28th, 1994. Well, on February 23rd, 1994, Muhammad comes, that's me at the Unity Nation, before the event, me and Sister Terry Wade, two of Muhammad's top supporters. These are some of the news articles. Dr. Khalid Muhammad comes to Howard University I took just a part of this out because it gives you a glimpse into how he was feeling and how he dealt with his suspension. So this is a short chapter, a short book called Freedom or Death. But the notes, the biography is extremely long because what? Now you're dealing with everything he and I was going through in 1994. We're dealing with the fact that he was suspended and he chose to speak. He chose to continue speaking, although he was told not. There's some painful things in this thing, man. There's things that I had to I spoke about earlier. There's some painful things. On February, before this speech, a few days, I'm in the hotel with Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and he's about to speak in Baltimore. And we got a note in the hotel saying, Dr. Khalid, if you speak tonight, the same thing that happened to Malcolm X will happen to you tonight. And how am I, brother, not going to recount that? I'm going to recount it, even though it's painful for me to recount it, and it's painful for me to recount who wrote the letter. But I got to report that.
That's right.
But you see why sometimes, you see what I mean? You see what I got to deal with? But these is truth, and I got to stand by my man. As much as I love this speech he gave at the FOI class in 1990, much as I love what he taught to the FOI at Muhammad's Mosque number 4, I still am duty bound to say that in 1989, when I first brought Khalid Muhammad there to bring him to Howard University, and I put the flyers out on all the cars, that all of them flyers was ripped up off of them cars. And Muhammad and everybody was told not to attend this man's lecture, and was told that he was the new Malcolm X. And as early as February 1989, he came to that meeting with no security, and 14 members of that mosque sat in the audience fold-handed looking at him until he taught Farrakhan so hard they was embarrassed that they wasn't securing him, and before the end of the lecture ran up and tried to get around him to secure him, and told me, as I looked right there, the first time I had him on campus, first time told me right to my face that we were told that you was the new Malcolm X, Malcolm X being termed enemy here, and to stay away from him. That's in the book. Things got better at some point. And then things got worse. All right, so we're dealing with all of this. We in February of 1993. So this is heavy biographical that we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with how Mr. Khallid, Dr. Khallid Muhammad was feeling. How was he feeling about his suspension? How was he feeling that day we went to Baltimore, Muhammad Mosque number 6? And he sat down and he watched the tape of his suspension by Minister Farrakhan. When he was watching that tape, and I could sit there and watch him with tears in his eyes as he kept running it back, because he was very attentive to every word. And some of them words really hurt him. Although I will report that he said he didn't mind being suspended. He knew that as a soldier he could be suspended if he brought too much heat on his nation. But inside of that, and inside of those words that suspended him, were some very painful things that he really never got over. And then we have to report that. So how did he get from? Then I can show how he tried to conform his teaching. I can show you here, and then we'll document how he tried to conform his teaching. And then I can show you how before this program here, this one here, which is the mothership of them all, the Black Holocaust program at Howard University, how he told me, he told me privately, you know what he said? He said, brother, I'm not going to go to no Black Holocaust program, and you and Dr. Jeffries and them, and y'all going to be up here raging on the enemy, and I'm going to get up here like some punk. He said, hell no, I'm not going to do it tonight. So he had reached a certain ideological point where he was going to teach his teaching, and he couldn't conform to the rules that was given him. He could not conform. As best as he tried, he could not conform to the restricted rules that were given to him. So then the result of it is the Black Holocaust. Where's my flyer as I clue the Black Holocaust at Howard University? I got 5 minutes. Here it is. Here we go. I got stuff everywhere, y'all, but that's how it is. The Black Holocaust at Howard University, April 29th, 1994. This is when Muhammad ideologically let back loose before the whole world. And this is where he made his own moral choice that he was going to teach the truth as he knew it, and he was going to teach it and let the chips fall where they may. And history was made that night. History was further made on the Phil Donahue show. So after he rocked Howard University, you know, I just go off on the footnotes for the Black Holocaust, because not only am I documenting the Black Holocaust, I'm documenting everything that's transpiring and everything that's going on at Howard University, the attack that I'm under, the attack that Khallid Muhammad is under. So then I got witnesses from around the country I'm interviewing about this great year, 1994, and putting it all here together in the Black Holocaust. And these are some of the news articles that appear in the book. Muhammad returns to the Mecca, things that are never online, community newspaper, Washington Post, Howard University people speak out against hate and hate teachings. I got extensive racks of newspaper articles from that great and historic time at the Black Holocaust at Howard University. Then we come into Phil Donahue interview, which I've transcribed and broken down and shown 100 footnotes in Donahue. And then, but you want to know also what was happening when he went to the Phil Donahue show. What happened? What was going on up there? What was going on? We get all into the biography of it. Then, then as I conclude, he does so good at Phil Donahue. He does so great, brother, on the Phil Donahue show. He does so great for a man that they just said was a wild radical, that he was just an emotional man. He's brilliant on Donahue. Some say it was the greatest interview ever against Phil Donahue. But you know what it did? You know what it did? It marked him for assassination. And therefore he was shot shortly after. After the Phil Donahue interview, I conclude he was absolutely marked for assassination because he was too sharp, too cold, too bold. And a stop had to be put to him. So he's shot by James Best in Riverside, California. In the last chapter, deals with Real Niggas Don't Die, a speech he gave in New York after coming from being shot, after by Minister and Chairman Hashim Nzinga, secured by Minister Nzinga, taken to Dallas, Texas, hooked up with the new Black Panther Party. So you have this thing broke out. This the Daily News. I mean,
Self.
the New York.
Battery?
Better stay on mine,
Okay, still going.
because I gotta go. This the New York,
Shut it down. We got about a minute left.
we gotta go. This is the New York Village Voice, I'm sorry. Village Voice. The Unholy War, as Peter Noel puts it, not me. The Unholy War. Khallid Muhammad and the battle for the Nation of Islam. And it goes into a controversial period of Muhammad getting shot, Muhammad seeking refuge with the new Black Panther Party. And the question is, who shot Khallid Muhammad and why? And all of that. And that makes up book one. All of this makes up the 500 to 600 pages of book one, the book of Khallid, of which I'm giving my whole life to get to you by December the 15th in New York. I've been working on it for some years, and I'm hardcore on it. I hope you have understood what I've said today. I know I've said a lot and I've been talking fast. I hope you have understood what I said. You will understand it more, and I hope you will understand what I'm dealing with in trying to undertake such a project like this, as well as knowing that people are dependent on what I write. People are dependent on what I write, and I want to be conscious of that. And I have to meet my duty to Mr. Muhammad. I want you to be clear in that. I'm back in that mindset now. I'm back in that Khallid Muhammad is my man mindset, and I'm not giving up nothing for Khallid Muhammad. I'm back in that mindset where I can tell my mama, like I told her then as a student, I'm sorry, Mom, but I'm standing with Khallid Muhammad, and the chips got to fall where they may. And so I'm telling you right now here as I leave up off of this show, that I'm standing for Khallid Abdul Muhammad. I'm standing for his history. I'm standing for everything that he taught. And I'm standing for the book of Khallid. Thank you.
And a question,
God bless you.
The question from your listening and watching audience.
Yeah.
Where can they get the book, and
Stay
what is
tuned to
online?
my Facebook page. I'm going to start pre-sales on November 15th. I'm going to go into a whole advertising campaign on November 15th, and then I'll be more secure with my final product. It'll be about ready to go then. And I will sell you the book in advance. Be patient. Remember, all you got to do is read it. I got to put it together. And it is taken thousands of labor hours and thousands of dollars thus far, because it is not just a book. I say it's looking like one of the greatest black books ever. I'm not bragging, that's just the way it turns out, because it is like a mother of all books. If you don't read a lot of books, just read this one book. You will have a comprehensive understanding of everything that it takes to be about black revolution, God and the devil. God bless you.
Bless you.
I'm over time. Thank you for my friends here. I'll see y'all. I will not be coming back out again on the book, and I'm going back to work. Assalamu alaikum and Black
Thank you.
Power.
Wa alaikum assalam and Black Power.